What is going on, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Caught Stealing, Fantasy Alarms, Fantasy Baseball Podcast. I'm Howard Bender. With me, of course, is Colby Conway. And I guess it's like week 7 of the baseball season. I don't know. It's still the first week of May. We're recording here right now on May the 7th. So just getting ready to move into another week. What's up, Colby? How are you?
Doing well. I've never quite caught on to the whole weeks in fantasy baseball because it gets thrown off with the opening week. It's just about as bad as you get college football, the week 0, and then I can't keep up with it. I don't know. The only time I know like the week I'm in is in like head-to-head leagues. You go in and look at like the number of your opponent, but every time I do the injury report at Fantasy Alarm, I'm like, I don't know what week it is, what I'm putting at. And then I look at James' waiver wire and he put the week 8 and I'm like, good enough for me. It sounds like week 8 and someone will catch it if it's wrong.
Right, that'll work. Yeah, I'm with you on that one as far as that goes. We only do it for title purposes. It's called search engine optimization for those of you out there who don't know. But we thank you guys for joining us here. If you're watching the broadcast here on the Fantasy Alarm YouTube page, we would love for you to hit like and subscribe. It's how we support you support the work that we do over here, because this podcast is free. It is free. Maybe we'll get some sponsorship in here soon, but for the time being, it's free. I love I got to get my some baseball gold chains and stuff like that I have like over here. So Matt Strauss, if you're watching, I need stuff that says some baseball on that one as well. Now, Colby, I wanted to talk about, like, we spent a lot of time talking rookies last week. Now we're at this point right now, and I'm not sure like how you view it. I look at this week coming up here in the month of May as a very big time for me to assess what's been going on with my team and what is most needed at this point. And so now I'm going to start working the trade phones there. What is there like a certain assessment period that you have when you're, playing a full season?
Yeah, and I think it's actually right around this point in time because you look at, barring anything unforeseen, any injuries, knock on wood that nothing happens, guy like Aaron Judge is going to play his 40th game at some point this week. Right. What's game number 40? You're basically the quarter of the way through the season. So we're at this point now where we can kind of start definitively saying, all right, maybe it's a little more than a slow start. Maybe this breakout is legitimate. Maybe there's things to like here. We're getting past the, I wrote up the pitcher probable grid on Wednesday as we're recording this, and we're past the point of, oh, this guy has a 1.80 ERA at home. Well, he's only made 2 starts that covered 9 1/3 innings. We're starting to get in where we're not just kind of looking at maybe potential blips on the radar. Like, these are like legitimate trends. And that's where we're starting to see. So when you see guys that maybe are starting to come along now, we're getting to that point of, all right, we're basically at the quarter point of the season. The slow starts are maybe shaking off and people are getting into it. So this is right around the time where I think we can really start legitimizing certain things that we saw in the first part of the season, but also the other way of like, hey, this is kind of here to stay with this guy. This isn't the guy that was advertised as we started off. Like, you have a guy like Tanner Houck. He had that one bad blow-up start. I'm still a little reluctant to roll him out there in certain starts, but the numbers have been better from there. Max Meyer had an awesome start to the year. The trains have come off the track a little bit. We're getting past this. Hey, it's a good couple of starts to kind of see what players really are, and they're really settling into who they actually are and are going to be the rest of the way.
Yeah, Tanner Houck's a really interesting one here. I'm still targeting against him right now for looking at like early season. What are we waiting for? His velocity did tick back up in his last start. I think that's what everybody's kind of focused in on right now. Was it just a slow start? But for the same token, lefties are still destroying him. And one of my favorite props for the day, not that y'all can bet it right now because we're recording, but I'm in on Corey Seager going up against Tanner Houck, and I'm in on like the Rangers going up against him. Just their left-handed bats. Just to kind of put that to the test. But I agree with you, right? This is where hot starts cool off, cold starts begin to heat up. I don't know where you are at with your teams right now as far as like what your biggest need is. My biggest need is a problem. It is. Because how the hell do you sit there and trade for power in a time where people are still saying that power is down and runs across the board here for MLB are still on the lower side? How do you convince somebody that they should be trading you power without like totally just decimating your team, right? Like, I'm not going to trade for Aaron Judge. I'm not going to try and trade for Shohei Ohtani because, I don't want to give up. If I want to try, like, if I were to try to trade for Shohei Ohtani and, like, let's say Labor NL, it's going to cost me Paul Skeens and then some. I don't want to do that. So, if we take guys like Judge and Ohtani out of the equation, like, where's the high end premium power gonna be? Is it Schwarber, who's one of the tops in home run power right now? Is it Kyle Tucker? Is it Pete Alonso? Is it Austin Riley? Like, who are your like big key targets that you that you want to go after?
Yeah, I mean, those are probably some of the headliners. And then now that we're a little bit into the season, like I'm looking at some of those athletics bats. I'm looking at maybe some Rays bats. Like we're seeing how profitable these two stadiums can be. Steinbreiter and Sutter Health,
Sutter Health and Steinbrenner
Sutter Health.
Field. Yes.
Yeah, like we're seeing how those two are. So, like, yes, like you look at the top now, Rooker's at 9 home runs. Soderstrom is right around there with 9 as well. Like, those are the guys I'm looking at because half their games are going to be played in advantageous hitting spots. And you're absolutely right. No one's going to give you Judge. It's going to cost you 3 arms and 3 legs. So, try to figure out how to make that work with your team. I think at this point, if you are hurting for power or you're needing power, I wouldn't even really be looking at the top of the leaders because those guys aren't going to get rid of those players more likely. So I'm looking down a little bit farther, maybe guys that have had some slow starts, or maybe the power is, let's say, it's on the come up. So like there's some bargain guys that I think you can look at, or like take a chance for dirt cheap on like a Jean Kenzie Noel. We know the power is there. You're also going to deal with a shit ton of strikeouts and a lower batting
Yeah,
average.
I don't know if
that's what it's going to come to.
That's really digging deep on the bargain end there.
Sure. And there's a lot of guys that like that I'll come up with some names a little bit later that you're not going to feel good about, but there's at least power upside going from there. And it's not going to cost you what it's going to, you can trade for Noel's. What does he have? 2 home runs on the year right now? 2 home runs on the year for pennies versus paying top dollar to pay for the 9 that Soderstrom has already hit and so forth. So I'm going more bargain bin when it comes to power and trying to look at some metrics and see like, hey, who's got the power upside and maybe paying more for future production more so than past production.
So one of the things that I do have on pretty much every squad is runs scored and stolen bases. Like I'm good on the speed front there, but I don't necessarily like a speed guy isn't going to get me a premium power bat. I like the idea, obviously, of going after the athletics, and Soderstrom and Rooker definitely top the list. Shea Bangaliers, as they say, off of that. I was watching that game the other night against Seattle, where I ended up in extra innings, and just the A's, they just keep peppering you. And when you're at Sutter Health Park, it is, it's extremely tough to keep things down. Maybe JJ Bleday is a guy, like a lower end guy. I consider Rooker and Soderstrom, I consider them like mid-tier targets. Like if you're in a league with casual fans that don't really understand the ramifications of playing in West Sacramento, then you're great, right? And then you can kind of take advantage of that. If you're playing in a savvy league, people are the price for Rooker and Soderstrom, that's going to jump up. I'm looking at other guys, though. Like Teoscar Hernandez always seems to kind of fall through the cracks, and people don't consider him premium. Alex Bregman, right? I mean, I'll take doubles all day long from him because it's going to plate runs, but the duo in Detroit is probably one of the spots that I'm really looking at because, still you have that stigma of being on the Tigers for a lot of people. Torkelson and Riley Green, those are 2 guys. Obviously, Torque's power numbers right now are really going to, give somebody pause. But for the same token, you can turn around to somebody and be like, Yeah, hot start for Torkelson. You seen what he's done in the last couple of seasons, right? You can talk that one down.
Yeah, you can talk Torque down, and then you got like Kerry Carpenter, who anytime there's a righty on the mound is a threat to hit a home run on any given day. And then you even have cheaper guys like behind the dish. They got, I'm going to call him Dylan Dinger because he's just hitting the ball hard. The home runs are halfway decent. He's up to 4 on the year, but no split disadvantage against lefties or righties. A number of late, the ISO, all the underlying power metrics look really, really good for him. And of course, he gives you that power at the position where you really want it. Behind the dish. And when you look at him too, his 301 average, 276 X batting average, not far off. His slug and X slug are within 14 points of one another. Like there's nothing to suggest that what he's doing isn't sustainable. So those Detroit bats, I love them. I love those bats. I love that team.
By the way, I loved him in Boogie Nights. I thought he was absolutely fantastic. And if you've seen his movie career as Brock Landers, he is absolutely amazing. I'm probably talking over your head on that one there. Do you know the movie Boogie Nights?
I have no clue what you're talking
about. Come on. How old are you?
I was just going to sit here and kind of like nod and just hope.
No, how old are you?
That's not a polite question to ask. What are you going to ask? You going to ask my weight next?
No. I don't care how much you weigh. I honestly don't care. You know what it is? It's just a classic movie reference, man. Mark Wahlberg in the movie Boogie Nights about the late 70s, early 80s porn industry. Burt Reynolds was in it. William H. Macy was in it. Philip Seymour Hoffman was in it. He played a character named Dirk Diggler. That's where I was going with that, Colby.
Oh,
are you on the IMDb page right now for it?
I'm looking at the cast. I do know a lot of the names of these actors and actresses, but never seen the movie. It was 1997. I was 3 years old at the time, so I don't think I was watching it at 3.
Did you just say you were 1997? You were 3?
Yep.
Holy cow!
So is this like a must watch? Like, are we talking like a timeless American classic?
It's a classic movie. It's a classic movie. It's a great flick. Yeah.
It's a good cast. I mean, even I know some of the names.
Right? Heather Graham, Burt Reynolds, Philip Seymour Hoffman. I can just go through it over. John C. Reilly plays his best friend. Those two are hysterical. Don Cheadle's in it. I mean,
I don't know if I know Heather Graham.
You don't know who Heather Graham is?
No, I said I don't know if I know.
Did you see The Hangover?
Yes.
She's the girl who married what's his face? Ed Burns. Not Ed Burns, but the dentist.
Okay.
She was the stripper who married him.
Got it. Okay, I'm on board now. You still haven't seen the movie, but I know the people.
All right. You'll love it. You'll enjoy it.
So Dylan Dingler was in Boogie Nights. That's cool.
No, he wasn't. All right, so you've got John Kenzie Noel. You've got Dylan Dingler as some bargain power bats. Where else are you going? Who else are you looking for? I mean, I don't even know if like power is a need for you. For me, it's definitely a need. And like I said, I've got him in tiers. I don't necessarily want to go for the big power guy. The mid-tier guys, even who I just kind of rattled off a bunch of them, I dig them. For bargains, I had Kerry Carpenter listed in there. Eugenio Suarez, I worry about him though. Like as soon as he like gets cold, is that when the Diamondbacks bring up Jordan Lawler?
Yeah, it's interesting. An accomplished veteran like him kind of being on a leash, but at some point the clamoring for Jordan Lawler is going to get a little bit too loud for certain team to keep him down. Deeper formats, maybe AL only formats. I don't even like recommending this one, but again, disclaimer, deeper formats, AL only. You could take a flyer on Nolan Jones. The numbers suck right now. He can't hit lefties. Like you don't feel good about it, but he's, for what it's worth, he is swinging harder this year. He's got a 276 ISO over the last 2 weeks. So maybe he's turning things around. 2 home runs in his last basically 30 at bats. So again, not great in deeper formats, only like 10 and 12 team leagues. I'm not considering him at all. But if you find yourself in an AL only situation or maybe 15 team leagues with super deep benches, Nolan Jones is probably available in your league because he has not been good. Let's just throw that out there.
No. And I remember when he was coming up in Colorado and we were like, he's 2020. He's a 2020 guy, which I would absolutely love if he could even remotely come close to that. Would you rather offer the Guardians? Would you rather take a shot on Nolan Jones, or would you go after the Branzino himself, Kyle Manzardo?
Manzardo. Nolan Jones is just, it's too. Nolan Jones might be able to do a little bit more if things go well, but he's given Cleveland no reason to put him out there more than half the time. And I mean, honestly, we're at the point with Nolan Jones is we have that 1 year. That's it. There's been nothing outside of that. I think it was 2023 season where he went 2020. Like the numbers are all trending the wrong way. Maybe there's a little bit of a rebound in a power this year in Cleveland. I mean, he's got 2 homers and 3 stolen bases. Both those home runs have come in the last 2 weeks, but it's just, I don't feel good about it, which is why I was reluctant to almost bring him up. So I would take Manzardo over Nolan Jones, but the cost opportunity is probably much more palatable with Jones.
I mean, he's definitely sitting on waivers unless you've got some like absolute thick-headed knucklehead like me in your league who is stashing Nolan Jones on a couple of different benches. Then that's kind of the way to go. Any other power guys you want to give a little shout out to?
I will give a somewhat honorable mention to Eric Wagaman in Miami. There's at least been a couple of home runs, but nothing really jumps off the page despite the 3 home runs, like the 391 slug, 139 ISO is fine. The 8.4% barrel rate, fine. I don't like the 7.8 degree launch angle, so I'm not sure if this power is necessarily sustainable, but I mean, 391 slug, he does have a 487X slug, so do with that what you will.
So power is my biggest shortcoming right now across the board. Like whether I'm talking Tout Wars or Labor or any other random leagues that I'm in, and I'm in a few. Power seems to be the way. I don't even know how the hell it happened. I really don't. Right? I mean, it was just turned out that way. What about you? Are you where are you at in like your leagues? What's your biggest concern for your teams?
How I managed to draft everybody who sucked through the first 6 weeks of the season. I have them all. It's bad. Like honestly, my team needs are just players that can produce. Like right now, it's just either even the teams that I have that are healthy, just a lot of guys that are struggling. So, pretty soon decisions are going to have to be made with some of these guys, but speed is probably one that I'm hurting at a little bit just because I was so big on PCA and then I actually didn't really get him in a ton of spots, which have hurt. And then I didn't basically my solution to a lack of speed in the early rounds was Victor Robles. And now obviously his wrist is in the shape of a W. So he's out for a little bit. So I'm hurting a little bit speed, hurting a little bit in power. And then honestly, what's actually probably hurt, and I still stand by that I think it works, is that my 2-headed monster behind the dish of Adley Rutschman and Yanier Diaz has not quite paid the dividends so far as I thought it would. But hey, there's time for these two to turn it around. We'll be just fine.
You mean the double tap of the catchers just hasn't panned out? I can't believe that.
I mean, they can't be hot. They can't be hot from day one to day, from game 1 to game 162. And then honestly, like, I don't even know how much it is badly. Well, come on. Sure. That's cool. That's one. So is the porn star Dylan Dingler. So like, that's cool based on Boogie Nights or whatever that movie was that is like 30 years old. But, anyway, ultimately what it comes down to, like, when you look too with like Adley, sure, part of it is him. He's the one that's in there swinging the bat, but it's also just the aura around Baltimore is just down. Even in Houston, the offense as a whole is kind of down compared to past years. Maybe that's because Bregman and Tucker are out of the mix, but there's just some interesting things going around that I think with time, once Baltimore gets healthy, I think vibes kind of all pick up around there. Rutschman will start producing more. Same with Yanier Diaz. So I think the double tapping catcher early still has merit. We're only a quarter of the way through the season, my friend.
So if you're chasing speed, do you have targets in mind? Like, are you going to be like, you know what? Luis Robert doesn't do anything else. So maybe I can get away. If the guy who's got Luis Robert, maybe I can pry away Robert from him because he's like a batting average drain and he doesn't, he's not doing a whole hell of a lot with it. Is he a target for you? Or do you kind of look at guys like maybe Victor Scott, Andres Jimenez, Michael Garcia? Do you go into that realm? Or Do you go even further down there? Does Bryce Terang turn it around and start stealing more bags? Do you dare invest in a Byron Buxton?
I don't know if I can go the Buxton route, unfortunately. But yeah, I think probably that top tier, you're probably not going to get anybody in there because kind of like power too. Someone has an elite speed option. They're probably not just willing to get rid of them and hand them off. But the problem with like a guy with like Luis Robert is that I think anybody who drafted him and still owns him is basically one of the reasons was he's going to get traded somewhere and
Right.
he's just going to be amazing, which sure could happen. So I think you're fighting an uphill battle trading for someone like him. You know, you could probably talk a fantasy manager off the ledge that this version of Maikel Garcia is not what we're going to get the rest of the way with being a 300 plus hitter and on pace for easy with double digit home runs. Like, I don't think that's sticking. Like TJ Friedel's a guy I think you could make a legitimate move for. It's a good park to be in, and the lineup can really only produce more as it goes along. You could also look at someone like Lawrence Butler. Again, going back to the A's, like he's at 5 and 6, which is solid, but maybe someone would be willing to move away from him. And then if you go down a little bit further, I'm trying to see if there's anyone who I find remotely interesting. I don't think I can. I don't think I can do the Bo Bichette again. I don't think I can do the Bo Bichette thing again. Maybe like an Otto Lopez. He had a hot start and then has really kind of slowed down a little bit of late, but there's at least a little bit there. So I think you're looking more at that.
Why can't you do the Bo Bichette thing again? I mean, listen, the numbers right now. I mean, he just hit his first home run. He's only got like 5 stolen bases, I think, right now. But if you look at the rest of Bo Bichette's numbers, I have them right. Yeah. Sub 16% strikeout rate. He's not drawing walks, which absolutely blows, but he's hitting 278. If you're in a batting average league and not an OBP league, because OBP sucks at 313. But if you're in a batting average league, do you see him making that progression? Is he kind of working his way out of the disaster that he was in? I feel like you could get him cheap.
Yeah, I would come down to your league. If it's an OBP league, you can't do it with this. What is it? A 3.8% walk rate. It's not going to do it. We're now, again, still only a quarter way through the season, but we're pacing for another year with a sub 100 ISO, which I do think he'll get above that. So batting average leagues, I think you can do it. OBP, it's a little bit tougher to palate. The barrel rate's closer to the 2022 and 2023 versions of him. The launch angle's up a little bit. So I do think there could be a little bit more power production in store. It mainly comes down to batting average leagues. I am more intrigued, but a 313 OBP like he has now just won't cut it for OBP. But there's obviously some upside. He has a couple of good years with some notable production, and same thing with this Toronto team that the aura around that team isn't quite as down maybe as it is in Baltimore, but like Toronto's hitting teams for like half decent averages. There's just no pop behind it. Like if I'm not mistaken, they're I believe at least middle of the pack in batting average against right-handed pitching, but they have like a bottom 3 ISO against right-handed pitching. They just don't pack a punch. They can basically, it's all jabs from them. Death by 1,000 cuts is that kind of version of offense. So again, I think you can do it with Bo Bichette. It have to be a batting average league more so than OBP, or he's got to start taking walks, but that's never been a big part of his profile.
No, it really is not. It really is not. Would you take a shot on Bo Bichette kind of working his way back up? Or do you believe in a guy like Cedric Mullins, who has like suddenly become resurgent? I mean, he's got 7 home runs to go with 5 stolen bases as well. Baltimore's utilizing him at the leadoff spot again. You said you're banking on Adley Rutschman kind of picking it back up. Are you buying Cedric Mullins?
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think he's a near 15% walk rate guy. I think that's going to come down a little bit, but still, he at least has a better walk profile throughout his career than a guy like Bo Bichette. And if he can perform like this with how things are in Baltimore, I think he's going to be just okay. Things will turn around. And I mean, he's got 30 plus stolen bases in 3 of the last 4 seasons. No reason to think why he can't do that. And of course, he is a free agent after the end of this season. So maybe we're playing for a little jingle in the pocket type thing. You get that narrative going. If Baltimore can turn around, he's not going to be a guy that they trade off. And with the way he's performed, once they even get healthy in that outfield, they really can't afford to take him out of that lineup. So, I mean, Mullins, all things considered, should be pacing for another 15 homer, 30 stolen base season. And, the batting average could actually end up being a little bit closer to 250 than the 230 in the years past.
Okay. All right. So possible trade targets for power, possible trade targets for speed. Are you looking at any pitchers right now? For some reason, my pitching all seems to be holding together fairly nicely, and that's having lost Shane McClanahan and Garrett Cole, and at times other pitchers. I know that you were also heavily invested in Shane McClanahan. Um, yeah, I guess, man. Wow, your teams must just be a total hot mess right now.
I was
Colby,
going to say,
how's
what?
last place treating you?
Yeah, yeah, that's where I'm at, and most of them. It's been a rough start. I don't know what I did to you, but we're just attacking my teams. Basically, is what's happening here.
I'm trying to figure. Listen, you could look at my teams right now. I am in second to last place in FSGA, desperately seeking power. I was in first place for NL Labor, and I've kind of dropped, partially due to Alexis Diaz being absolute trash, but also because I lack power. Tout Wars, saves and holds league. I lack power. That's my issue right there. I guess because in my drafts, I went more for the like early round guys who are power speed combos. And, a guy like Julio Rodriguez, I don't know who broke him. But like I need him to turn around and start hitting for power. That's where I kind of fell off. This is also a year where I didn't go for a premium first baseman. Like I have Alonso in like 2 leagues, but I didn't go for a premium first baseman because I was drafting at the back end of the drafts a bunch, and I was kind of building it accordingly, with that, and was like, okay, I can be okay in the Tristan Cassis, Vinny Pasquantino level, at least at first base. And, Pasquatch has finally started to turn it around, but Cassis is hurt. And the rest of those mid-tier first basemen are, you could even go as far as like Toglia from Colorado. These guys all suck.
Yeah, a lot of disappointment there. But you kind of mentioned some pitching here. Again, much like we talked about with hitters, no one's
You guys
trading you
get that
Hunter
deep
Brown.
sigh there.
Yeah,
That
yeah, I had to. No one's trading you Hunter Brown. No one's trading Yamamoto. No
Nope.
one's trading guys like that. So where can you actually look? I wish this guy would just pronounce his name the right way, but I would wish he would just be Liberatore, but he has to be Liberatore, which I don't like. But I mean, he's been darn good. And the thing is, you can look at the 3.07 ERA, but we got the 2.3 FIP, where strikeouts hovering close to a batter per inning, and the walk rate is excellent. So he's a guy I think you can look at that's available. I love coming into the year. I was much higher on Nick Pivetta than you were.
Mm-hmm.
You were a little skeptical. It's been very good to start. And the nice thing is we got about
Yep.
a little over a strikeout per inning. In theory, half his starts are going to come at a good pitcher's park. So he's someone I'd be willing or comfortable to make a move for, because despite the low-ish ground ball rate, get to Petco, he's going to be just fine. I feel like this is a pro Detroit and pro athletics episode, but Reese Olson for Detroit and JP Sears for the Athletics are 2 guys I've been very impressed with to begin the year. I still think there's even more strikeout upside for Reese Olson, and he's at a 9.3 K per 9 right now. So I really like those 2 guys. Those are some ones I'm looking at. And, maybe Shane Smith in deeper leagues. I think there's a little bit of upside there. But the main ones, Liberatore, Olson, and Sears, I'm stoked for those 3.
Liberatore, Olson, and Spears. Do you remember a guy who used to work for Fantasy Alarm by the name of Dom Murtha?
Mm-hmm.
Liberatore is his cousin.
Okay.
See? Giving you new information. That if you go back Fantasy Alarm like 10 years ago, then you'll remember the name. Don Murthy used to do some baseball and a lot of football for us over there. All right. Well, I got your guys. I'll raise you one Chris Bubich, and I'll even tack on. I don't know how much I believe in him, but the numbers and all the underlying metrics for Chris Bassett look really, really good.
Yeah. Yep. I don't even know. Like I always have to look it up because I never remember off the top of my head, but I think he was better on the road. He had some pretty wicked home road splits, but the big thing, is, I mean, last year was about a point less on the road than at home, and 2023 is actually far better at home than on the road. But despite lefties always giving him fits, and they're still kind of a little problematic for him this year with a 471 slug and a 342 WOBA, he's just been like you said, he's been absolutely phenomenal this season. I'm pulling it up here. The strikeout rate is up, the first time he's over a 9K per nine since his last year in Oakland back in 2021. All the numbers under the hood support that his 2.95 ERA is legitimate, and it's not, a 324 BABIP is actually higher than his mark for his career. So like he's getting around that. I'm pulling up here because I wanted to see a little bit more of looks like a splitter. He's up the percentage on that a little bit, and also jumped a little bit with
his cutter's been the big one for him right now. He's throwing that a bunch more, and he's pulled back on the changeup.
Yep. And we're looking here for 2025 with his, we don't care about any of that. We look at like plate.
He's down like a mile per hour velocity wise across the board. Does that concern you?
I would say no, because as I'm looking at it here, despite being down in velocity, like his sinker, cutter, and curveball are all generating a 30+% O swing rate. Like he's getting swings out of the zone. And then with those pitches too, his slider sitting at a 26 swinging strike rate with 3 other pitches, cutter, curveball, and splitter all at 10+%. So everything there looks like legitimate. His curveball and slider, no one's making contact against those. So, despite the offense in Toronto being a little bit underwhelming at times, Bassett has been phenomenal. And then simply put, if you just look at the raw numbers, sure, he's only completed 6 innings and 2 starts, which were his first 2 of the year. Numbers are skidded here a little bit with 3+ earned runs in 3 straight starts. But I mean, really, for the most part, 4 or less earned runs in every start with 1 or fewer in 4 of 7. There's a lot to like here. And again, from a fantasy perspective, more strikes and less walks, we won't complain about that.
We definitely aren't going to complain about that. I love it. All right. See, and none of these guys, if you're targeting them, are going to cost you a bunch. Like you're not looking at the elite level strikeout guys, and you're not looking at guys who, on name recognition alone.
Yeah. And then the other thing,
by the way, can we all stop with the Lucas Giolito crap?
Yeah.
Can we just stop with that?
Yeah,
I did the pitching grid on Fantasy Alarm on Tuesday morning before all my power went out, and I was done for the day. I put Giolito in like the orange area because I'm not buying it. I think people are just looking at Giolito based off of his name, but I don't understand. You haven't seen results from this guy for the last couple of seasons, and so I just got a lot of pushback and from some Fantasy Alarm people that were just like, why is Giolito down so much? He's, whatever. He's in a good matchup and whatever. I'm like, he's in a good matchup. He's going up against the Texas Rangers, who are usually a strong hitting team, but more importantly, they just brought in Brett Boone to serve as their hitting coach. And then what happened? Giolito went like 3 1/3 and gave up 6 earned runs on that one. So I think we can be done with him, but I like the names you threw out there. Pavetta. I gave you Bubic. I gave you Bassett. You threw down J.P. Sears, little Reese Olson. I don't know if I can get in on the Shane Smith talk. I don't know if I can do that.
No, I get it, especially with the White Sox. Wins will be few and far between, but deeper formats, I think you can be in a worse situation than having to go with Shane Smith. And I'll kind of just vote yes with you when it comes to Giolito. He's had home run issues the past couple of years, and now he's going to pitch in Boston. In the AL East, this is not going to work, especially if he's going to have a sub 40% ground ball rate at Fenway Park. It is not going to work. So I know people that are out there looking for pitching are, he's probably the most attractive name on the wire, and you're looking to add it from there. I get it, but the strikeout rates dwindled the last couple of years. Where I have questions about health. I don't really like him in Fenway Park. Home runs are going to be a problem. It's just, this is not the 2017, 2019 Lucas Giolito. This is what we will get in 2025 is far closer to what we got in 2022 and 2023 than his best years back in his early years with the White Sox.
All right. So now we've done trade targets for power, trade targets for speed, trade targets on the mound for starting pitching. Dare we jump in and talk about the closer situation across MLB. We've had some recent movement. Now we still have a bunch of the top guys out there who people aren't going to be, traded away. Nobody's trading away Mason Miller. Nobody's gonna even give you Emmanuel Clase. But there is a little bit of movement. I don't know if you if you want to. I mean, I guess we could kind of talk about it at least from a trade target standpoint, but also from a waiver wire standpoint, and kind of go through some of the things. Last week on the episode, you could not say David Bednar's name enough times.
Well, now that you mentioned him, we can talk about him.
Now that I've brought him up, again, is this a trade target for you, Colby? I mean, I doubt he's on waivers now, because anytime even just the worst pitcher in the world gets a save, like suddenly everybody's in on him because he must be the next closer. So Bednar, you were all in on him. Dennis Santana's still floating around there. Are you pushing the chips all in still?
At this point, he's going to be the ninth inning guy, at least for the foreseeable future. He had 2 saves like last scoring week, maybe the week prior. Hasn't had a save since April 30th though, but has only made 2 appearances since then. But numbers have been fine. Only 2 earned runs allowed basically since he returned from the demotion to the minors. Strikeouts look good, and despite the the ERA that sits at an even 5, the FIP at a 308, xFIP at 2.9, we got a 56% ground ball rate. I think there's a lot to like with David Bednar. Much like any closer that isn't one of the elite guys, he is not devoid of risk. There is a lot of concern with him, but at this point, he seems to be the ninth inning guy. And I'm a believer that the Pirates turnaround is coming sooner rather than later, hopefully. So hopefully there's some save opportunities moving forward. And listen, if Pittsburgh is going to win games, it is not going to be by a lot. So there should be save opportunities. Like we saw it back in the day. Like you don't need to be the closer on the best team in baseball to rack up saves. We see it year in and year out. The teams that get 75 wins can somehow put out 53 save opportunities, and there's enough to be had there.
Yeah. Back when you were still in diapers, Colby, I was using a guy named Joaquim Soria for the Kansas City Royals.
Yep, I remember him.
And he was locking down like 35 saves a year, and he was never in danger of losing his job because Kansas City was just that bad of a team that he was doing it. Who's riskier, David Bednar or thinking about investing in Shelby Miller in Arizona?
I would probably say Shelby Miller, just because I would say the role has more questions for him because there's other proven commodities there where Pittsburgh doesn't really have other options. Like, sure, they could go Dennis Santana or look to like a Caleb Ferguson if they want to. But, if Justin Martinez is able to come back, he is clearly the guy, and Miller goes back to his kind of setup role. But then even without him, like Kevin Ginkel is still in there, and he's been relatively somewhat effective at times. Jalen Beeks probably sits in the middle reliever role. They won't move him back. Ryan Thompson is also there, although he hasn't been the greatest. Shelby Miller has been probably even with Justin Martinez healthy, when he was healthy, probably the best reliever for Arizona, all things considered. But if Justin Martinez gets healthy and he's over the shoulder inflammation thing, I think he goes right back to the closing duty. So I think Miller carries a little bit more risk in terms of role, but his ratios might actually end up being a little bit better than Bednar's, to be honest.
Camilo Doval over both of them, or is he still splitting too much with Ryan Walker?
He is splitting a little bit, which is concerning, but we've seen Doval be relatively dominant. And at some point with Ryan Walker, the numbers aren't great right now. So we have to see. The one thing I find interesting with Doval, though, is that his strikeout rate is not what you would expect from like an elite closer, hanging out at actually sub 20%, which isn't ideal. But other than that, a lot of the numbers look really good. I think I would prefer Doval because I think at some point, if he's going to keep pitching like this and Walker's going to be a little inconsistent, they could make the switch and go back to Doval. And we've seen Doval be quite good for fantasy in years past.
All right. Luke Weaver, the new man in New York, because Devin Williams sucks. Sucks. And I'm so mad at myself about this too, because I sat there last year when Devin Williams first got hurt, and I was like, I couldn't say back fractures enough times to just be like, why are we, even thinking about this? And then even when he came back in the tail end of the season, I was like, I am not like, I'm just not liking this. Like, Andrew Cooper says it best over at Fantasy Alarm. When was the last time somebody used to have a bad back? Nobody, right? I mean, you got a bad back, you got a bad back. And now he's fallen apart. Luke Weaver is now technically the closer for the New York Yankees. It's a great team, and the saved opportunities are still going to be fairly abundant. I just don't know if I can invest here.
Yeah, velo looks down a little bit compared to years past. The ground ball rate is dwindling. If you want to be an optimist, he's kind of been BABIP'd to death thus far, but I don't, it hasn't been very good. And then even despite that, like strikeout rate down, walk rate that was already kind of high is up even higher. And then you look at the batted ball profile, like hard hit rates kind of stayed intact, but he's getting barreled up a little bit more. The exit velocity is up there a little bit. And obviously it comes as no surprise that he's generating fewer swings and misses and less swings out of the zone and more contact. Kind of goes without saying about some of the other numbers. So at this point, the Yankees cannot put him in a closer role. They need to let him hang out in low leverage situations and try to figure it out, or else they're going to give away too many games kind of waiting for him. So at this point, and for the foreseeable future, I understand that there's a financial cost kind of into Devin Williams and the aura around what they traded for him. But at this point, they have to just continue to let Luke Weaver run out there. I mean, he's been excellent this year, and Weaver has the makings of a very good fantasy closer because he can be low ERA, high strikeouts, and it's for a pretty good team. So I like Luke Weaver a lot moving forward. And honestly, I think he's the guy for the foreseeable future.
All right, one more bullpen I want to take a look at here, and that's Detroit. Will Vest seems to be the guy who's kind of locked in, but Tommy Kahnle also gets the work. Now, it's a righty-lefty combo here. I feel like A.J. Hinch is going to continue to split time between these guys based off of lefty-righty matchups. Where do you rank guys like Will Vest and Tommy Kahnle among the Bednars and Luke Weavers and Shelby Millers and Camilo Dovals?
Yeah, I think Will Vest is probably a step below the top tier of those guys. The strikeout rate's very good. Would like to see the walk rate kind of come down a little bit, but I'm more intrigued, like in terms of just Detroit, I'm more intrigued by Vest than Tommy Kahnle. Don't give me, I always say his last name, but Bo, I think it's Briesk or Brisky.
Brisky? Bo Brisky?
Yeah, I'm not doing
sounds
that.
Sounds like a Will Ferrell character, right? I'm Bo Brisky.
Yeah, I'm not doing it with him. So I think Will Vest is the guy that you want to own in Detroit. Would probably prefer Bednar and Doval to Vest, but would look and Weaver to Vest, but Vest would probably be above. I don't remember who the other guy that we talked about is, but probably more so ahead of him. And then another bullpen there that's like Boston. I would take Will Vest over anybody in that pen as well.
All right. Well, there you go. Look at that. Guys to look at on the waiver wire, possible trade targets across a variety of different categories in fantasy baseball. We've got everything over at fantasyalarm.com. Colby does the injury report. Joe Galena does the does the closer grid for everybody out there. I do a stock watch for every Friday, so that shows you who's ticking up and who's ticking down. And James Grande handles the waiver wire work over there. Before we get on out of here, Colby, waiver wire targets for you? Anybody that's really like kind of turning your head this week who might be available in, let's just say, 12-team leagues?
Yeah, honestly, a couple of guys that we talked about there, and it works out. Someone like Vest, I'm looking at him. Maybe Doval's available from the hitters. It's a lot of those power guys that I talked about. Like if Dylan Dingler's still available and you need help behind the dish, I think he's a good target. And deeper formats, maybe Eric Wagaman, Jean Kenzie, Noel, guys like that. I think that you can look towards guys like them. And then I'm interested to see. I know we're recording this on Wednesday, so I'm hoping that I can speak this into existence. Gunnar Hoglund has me intrigued. I don't
really the pitcher from the Athletics, huh?
Yes, if he can. This is really weird. I can't believe I'm saying this. If he does well against the Seattle Mariners, I know they were a laughingstock of an offense to begin the year, but they have been damn good in recent weeks. The offense has been pretty impressive. He's impressive again against Seattle. He's going to be up there amongst my ranks of Athletics pitchers in the JP Sears tier. There's a lot to like with him. I think he can hold a roll down. It'll be interesting to see if JT Ginn, as he works his way back, what they kind of do with Hoglund. But if he can stick in that rotation, he's a guy I'm really excited about moving forward.
Well, we are like Colby said, we're recording here on a Wednesday afternoon. We're an hour away from first pitch from Mariners and Athletics. So keep an eye on the after you listen to this show, go check that box score, see how Hoglund did here against the Mariners. So I dig it. I definitely dig it. All right. Well, listen, I think for your team evaluation, and again, that's the important thing also, is that now is the perfect time. Assess what's going on with your rosters. Who's on the hot start that's cooling off? Who's, over the last 2 weeks has been swinging a better bat than they have been for the entire month of April? You really need to take stock in your team, because the last thing you want to do is end up like I am in a couple of leagues where I'm so far behind in power. It's going to be a tough road to climb up. It's not insurmountable, but you don't want to fall behind in any category too early. You always want to keep pace so that you can gain a couple of points if you're playing in roto, if you're competing in a head-to-head format and going up against somebody. You want to kind of balance those rosters out, and everything over at fantasyalarm.com is right there for the taking. 100%. Colby, any final thoughts?
I have no final thoughts other than we talked about it last week. Make sure you head over to fantasyalarm.com each day with the probable pitcher grid. I know I do it multiple days a week. You do it a few days a week as well. So whether it's DFS or seasonal, you're looking for streaming options. We have them ranked from like elite matchups to some risk, complete fades. A lot of good numbers and everything in there too. So make sure you check that out every single day.
Every single day. All right. Well, then that's going to do it for us here on the Caught Stealing podcast. Again, we thank you all. If you're watching this on the live stream on the YouTube page for Fantasy Alarm, please hit that like button and definitely subscribe. We got a lot more shows that are rolling out. And for all you fantasy football junkies out there, if you need that itch scratched, we're doing that for you as well. So everything out there available to you. If you don't subscribe to Fantasy Alarm, do yourself a favor. Now is an absolute fantastic time. fantasyalarm.com/win. Promo code Let's Go. That's going to take 50% off of your first month. Catching up with all the sports right now, betting, DFS, and season long. And then, football is just a couple of steps away, and we'll get you into those fantasy baseball championship circles. But that's going to do it for us here on the show. For Colby Conway, I'm Howard Bednar. Thanks for tuning in to the Caught Stealing podcast, and we'll catch you next time.